Thank you very much, Cindy. As Cindy said, my name is Craig Brown, and I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for the City of Westland, Michigan. We're a city of approximately 84,000 people, and we have some pretty active departments that utilize Cityworks. My role with the city is twofold. The first one is I manage the technological infrastructure for the city. So that in itself is a pretty fun role, but what I really have fun with is the second part of my role, which is I'm exposed to be looking for ways for us to improve the processes within the city using technology or not technology to make it so the residents provide to the services provided to the residents are better, faster, smarter, more cost effective, and gives us the opportunity to provide more services going forward. But to begin with, I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedules to listen to me rattle on about one of our little stories of one of the things that we're trying to do to improve the city for our residents. So what we're going to be talking about today is the fire department and specifically the vehicle and equipment inspections. The fire department came to us and wanted us to take some documents that they have for inspections and make it so they could utilize them more effectively in the field. Specifically trying to link the documents into their mobile devices that we've already deployed out to them to try to speed up some of the services that they have. This really gave us an opportunity to take a look at this particular process and see if there is a better way for us to do this for the fire department. With that being said, the first part of this is really understanding the why of what they're doing. Why do they need to do these inspections? What type of frequency do they have? What other processes do they have in place that we can piggyback off of to allow them an opportunity to really embrace whatever the new process is, because as we're all aware, not a single department in this world is going to be gung-ho for something that's different that they're already comfortable with. They've already got down pat in terms of how they do it. This was going to give us a huge opportunity to expand what we're doing and make them even more comfortable with changes that could potentially come down the road. But like I said, it starts with understanding the why. So with the why, we're looking at, what equipment do they need to inventory? What's the reasoning for the inventorying of those items? With the vehicles themselves, what type of parts of the vehicles do they need to be inspecting? How do they normally do it in terms of a weekly or a monthly basis? And when it comes to why, is there any outside sources that are really forcing them to move into these types of inspections, or what type of difficulties they're having with the current process that's making it so they want to move forward with changing of their systems? The first thing that we came to understand is the process itself is pretty manually driven, and I'll explain that a little bit further down, just how manually driven it was, but it was prone to errors. It was prone to difficulties tracking the accountability of if the work was being done. And there were a lot of extra moving parts that really didn't need to be there. With that being said, there's really three huge driving factors beyond the efficiencies associated with it that really was working to our advantage for being able to develop this process. The first one is they're required by the state of Michigan and other organizations, accreditations, whatnot, to do these yearly audits to make sure that the regulators and so forth know that their equipment is up to par, can provide the service that they need, and they have all the equipment that they need to provide exemplary service to the residents. The second part is compliance with our insurance companies. Just like everybody else, municipalities have insurance, and there's certain aspects of the insurance world that have to be managed when it comes to fire departments, when it comes to life savings. If you manage the insurance side of it, it helps reduce risk to the municipality, and it also allows an opportunity for some cost savings through the insurance process, which is always a benefit for any municipality. I've yet to talk to anybody in this world that isn't looking for a little extra money in their budget, and this is one of the ways that you can do it. The third one is the liability reduction. Going along with the insurance, there's also certain liabilities. If a vehicle is out of service and there's no other vehicle that's available for the type of incident run that they're trying to do, if the vehicles aren't properly maintained, that opens up the municipality for legal issues, depending on what the issues was. Like, for example, if there are no engines that are available in the regular call area for a house fire, then another engine has to be pulled from somewhere else. It takes longer to get there, and a house that could have been salvaged all of a sudden isn't salvaged. It's a complete loss, and then the city can be potentially held liable if it comes out that there's negligence with the managing of the vehicle fleet. Same thing with equipment. If paramedics roll up to somebody's house and they don't have the equipment necessary to save their lives, again, that's a huge liability on part of the city. So this helps us make sure that we are in compliance and make sure that we have our audits done and make sure that we ultimately have the ability to save the maximum amount of lives and to save the most amount of property when things go south. I mean, that's what the fire department's all about. When things go bad, they're there to save people and their property. So with that being said, their old system was convoluted to some degree. In the past, and they've been doing this for years. Let me predicate this by saying that they've been doing these types of inspections and audits for years upon years upon years, and they've tried a couple different systems to manage it, starting with just a legal pad and pencil back in the day, because that's what they had. And then they moved forward with, carbon copied papers and things like that. In this particular instance, they're using 4 different documents, 2 PDFs and 2 Word documents. And with these, like, for example, you can see over to the left is a checklist for rescue equipment. So for example, it's just a listing of what they're supposed to have. So they would have to take this piece of paper, they'd have to print out, and they'd have to manually check off what they have, what they don't have, going down through this list. And it was a couple pages long. And they would have 1 PDF for the rescue vehicles and 1 PDF for the fire engines. And then the same thing with the actual vehicle inspections, which you can see over here to the right. They had 1 for the rescue vehicles and 1 for the engines. This was a Word doc, and they got a little bit fancier. They have little drop-down tabs on here, but the fire department staff don't have laptops that they could take out to the vehicle to do the inspection. So ultimately, again, they would print this out. They would mark off on it what they need to mark off, and then they would go back to a desktop computer, and then they would go through the form again and go through the drop-down boxes and mark them off. And then once they did get done with this very tedious task of duplication of work, then they had to get it to their supervisor, or the supervisor had to hunt down the crew that did the inspection and see if they actually did it and where the forms are. And if there were handwritten notes on, they had to try to decipher the notes, especially when it came to items that were damaged. Like, for example, if one of the fire engines needed to have the coolant changed out, if the people who were inspecting it didn't mark it clearly that it needed to be replaced, the coolant needed to be replaced, then they would have they wouldn't know about it, and then it'd go to the next inspection before it was caught. So there's potential of vehicles being out of service. And that doesn't even include the additional paperwork that the supervisors were keeping on the side to keep track of which vehicles in the fleet were in service, which ones were out of service, where the vehicles were at, what type of work was being done on them. So there is a very convoluted and complex process involved with this. So we decided that instead of going with the idea of taking these documents and putting them onto iPads, which they already had for other purposes, so they could do them in the field, we knew that there was a better way that we could do this, because putting those documents onto the iPads didn't resolve the convoluted process of it. You still had people having to chase after people. You still had the documents having to go somewhere. Documents could get lost. What about notes? You still had all that to deal with. So we decided to do something simpler. So we decided to build 4 mobile-friendly inspections within Cityworks. And the reason why we decided to go along this line is, first of all, these are checklists and inspections. This system in Cityworks is literally inspections and checklists. So why won't we use that? The other part of it is that the fire department was already, for the last couple of years, utilizing a system that we put in place for them. It was actually our first system that we put in place for involving Cityworks with the fire department, involving the inspection of our water hydrants within the city. And that went over phenomenally well. That was a great success for us. The firefighters picked it up really fast. They were very happy with how it worked. There wasn't a single firefighter that I've talked to in the last couple of years who didn't like how that process was compared to their old process. So we wanted to build on that success. And to do that, we copied what we did with the hydrant inspections and expanded it to include the inspections of the vehicles and the checklists for the equipment. So with that, we took the 4 documents and we broke them into 4 separate inspection types. So 1 checklist for rescue vehicles, 1 checklist for engines, 1 vehicle inspection for engines, 1 vehicle inspection for the rescue vehicles. We took all the questions that were on those forms and we put them as observations within the inspections, which had very simple just check mark options. The equipment checklist over here, it was very simple. That it was just literally O2 mask, check. Bag valve mask, check. End tidal CO2 detection capability, check. It was just simple, really easy checks that they could do on an iPad, speeding up the process of the inspections. At the bottom, there is options for adding any comments that they wanted to add to, which they could type in really fast through an iPad, or they could write with their finger. They could add attachments. So, you know, there's the old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, it holds true. So they could take pictures, embed them directly into the inspection, so there's no question about the repairs that need to be done. To add accountability to it, the inspections, they have to, the person doing the inspection had to put their first, initial, and last name. So the supervisors knew who was doing the inspections or doing the checklists. It really made a difference in terms of how much faster the process was from start to finish. Once we did set up the inspections, we created new groups in Cityworks for the firefighters to utilize with these inspections. We added them to the inbox on the iPads for the accounts that they were already using for the hydrant inspections. So all I had to do was click on the inbox and the inspections were there. They're designed so they build every week. So when the previous week's inspection is completed or checklist is completed, it immediately builds a child inspection for the following week. So we automated as much as possible in this system. So not only did we do this for the firefighters, but we also wanted to look at the overall process involving work orders, how the administrators of this program, the supervisors, would be able to do what they needed to do to make sure that there's accountability and these things were being done. So we created 2 brand new dashboards that we added to the supervisors. One is specifically for the rescue vehicles equipment and engine equipment. The other one was for the vehicle inspections, engines and rescues. one of the things we looked at with this is not only did we want to provide these inspections, but we also wanted it to be accountable and an easy way for the supervisors to know if the inspections are being done, if they're not being done, and access to the inspections themselves very quickly. So we have incomplete inspections are listed. We've got the equipment checks for the past 30 days. We created reports for the supervisors that they can just hit a button, print out a report of X amount of checklists or inspections for a period of time. Specifically, that's for the audits. So they'll have the paperwork necessary for the audits readily available. They don't have to do any data mining for it. They don't have to do their own saved searches. We created as simple of a system as possible for not just the firefighters, but the administrators of the program also. Now, going along with that, we wanted to look at, like I said, not just inspections, but everything that happens after inspections. What about when work needs to be done? So to do that, we looked at how we could manage the vehicles. So we decided to create the vehicles as assets in the system so we could attach the inspections to the vehicles, and also we can add work orders to the vehicles. So the firefighters, when they're out doing the inspections in the equipment base, they can add a work order directly to connected to inspection, and it's linked to that vehicle. So there is actual now records being automated immediately on work that needs to be done for these vehicles. On the vehicle inspection dashboard, we have the VIN numbers of all the vehicles. We decided to use that as a unique identifier. So it shows the VIN number and all the vehicles. And if you click on the VIN, then you can see all the inspections that were done on it, all the work orders that have been done on it. It's all right there. Now, we also added a custom field of, or a custom assets field of in service or out of service. So now the supervisors can track whether or not the vehicle's in service or it's out of service, and they can easily change that back and forth based off the work orders that are coming in and when work orders are being closed out. So they will always have a real accurate understanding of what vehicles they have in play, what vehicles they don't have in play, which is super, super important. So with the dashboards that are in place and the inspections that are in place, we feel that we were able to give our firefighters the absolute best system possible for them to be able to waste less time doing the administrative side of their job and spend more time being able to save people's lives, save people's property, train to be better at what they do, and just make it so it's a better city overall. So with that, I want to thank everybody for the time that you gave me to present our little system in our city. Thank you.